Senna, thanks for the presentation. I just wanted to find out or ask you to clarify the mandatory aspect. You sort of touched to it and sort of said you're going to get back to it. I might have missed that aspect around the mandatory aspects of the implemented program in Ghana. And also just talk to us around the regulatory developments and the role of the regulators, or whether it is a voluntary sort of adoption by the private sector. Thank you.
Okay, that's number one. I hope, Sina, you can hear us, right?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Okay, let's finish the questions, then we'll give you an opportunity.
Good morning. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't miss this in your presentation, but I would just like to find out, in terms of making it mandatory, have you thought of specific sectors that it would apply to, or maybe turnover of companies, or will there be a blanket application of a mandatory requirement? And then, so if the mother company is in South Africa, but we have a footprint in Ghana, would there be a reporting requirement from our branch in Ghana?
Okay, thank you. That's number two. Number three is here. It's Joey.
Thank you very much, Senna, for the presentation. I just want to check in terms of the relationships with the Registrar General in Ghana. How much is the office also forming part of the engagements in this regard, but also the reporting mechanisms? Will you be using some digital reporting mechanism to receive those filings? Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think that concludes the three questions, and I think that the focus is on you, Sina. So
yes,
we'll give you the opportunity to respond on those three questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on the first question on whether the mandatory, yes, the current companies that are reporting on ESG are doing it on voluntarily, and by the regulatory authorities. The directives to them are not they are directives that they are encouraged to do, but they don't become laws in itself. But what we are intending to do as an institute is to help to provide mandatory directives based on the ISSB's adoption and the guidelines within the ISSB. Now, the difficulty is we do not intend to make multiplicity of reporting for our companies or the private sector, because they will become bored. So one of the discussion points we are having as we engage the stakeholders, especially the regulators, is that what is the sustainability requirements you currently have? We would have to match that alongside the ISSB or the IFRS S1 and S2. Then whatever gaps we have in there will be an addition for us to issue a joint directive, and that becomes mandatory. Now, the Ghana Stock Exchange, for instance, has a sustainability manual. And so if we were working with Ghana Stock Exchange, for instance, we will need to have a technical session that will look into the financial institutions and what standard alignments that we need to do for them. And it is not going to be just one-stop technical session. It will have to be technical sessions and alignments for various sectors because of the various needs. Because we cannot probably do the mining sector along as having the same alignment with the IFRS, and of course there are distinctions that IFRS has made it easier for us to implement it that way. So that is the first one. We are looking at eventually having mandatory guidelines. That is the process that we've started to align the regulators' own documents alongside the standard. On the second point of the regulatory framework, As I mentioned, the Ghana Stock Exchange, for instance, there is a manual. The Bank of Ghana or the central bank also has a guideline. We also have the National Corporate Governance Code, which is a very, very useful document. And it was launched last year, and organizations are being encouraged to use that in doing their corporate governance or ensuring best corporate governance in their environment. All the Security Exchange Commission related sustainability, they have even units that have been set up. Then when you come to ICA Ghana itself, our quality assurance monitoring unit works closely with the audit firms to ensure that whilst they are auditing the private companies, they are ensuring that they also follow standards and comply with the necessary guidelines which are regulating their industry. And so the regulatory framework is very broad, and I probably have just touched on it just a little bit so far. And whether we would have a blanket application, and if there is an institution that is multinational, how are we going to do that? That's the third question. And we will definitely have to look at a transitional plan or transition plan for various sectors and contextualizing the various needs. One application may not fit all, and that is why we need to do this in a segmented form. I think the work is quite huge, and we will have to act speedily because most of the multinationals may probably have been aligning already to maybe the GRI guidelines, and that is not too far different from the standards, but we have some specifics which are not within that. And so whilst we are aligning it, we will look at the sector specific, and if that is the mandatory requirement, then we'll help the organizations or the private sector to be able to comply with both their mother requirements as well as our national one, which is international in any way. And I'm very, very sure and positive that they are not going to be at distinct ends because it is going to be an alignment. The fourth point is on the Registrar General's involvement. About 3 weeks ago, the Institute's Council met with the Registrar of Companies board. And some of the partnership arrangements we are having is that per the company's law in Ghana, every business must be registered under the office of the registrar. And every company must make annual returns or prepare annual returns and submit. Now we are in the process of helping to build the capacity of the office of the registrar such that their teams will be able to review the returns that come, which includes financial statements. The conversation on sustainability is one of the things that we made, and we will have various guidelines that will be used to provide direction to the accountants of the various private sectors which have been registered duly under the Registrar of Companies. Beyond that, we have seen a gap, and the gap is capacity. Education is very key here, and that is what is driving or is going to drive our next steps. That is where we need partnership most. That is where we need collaboration most, because it will be very useful that at a point in time, not only should ICA Ghana be meeting a segment of mining accountants, but if there were accountants in the mining sector from South Africa joining with accountants in Ghana, for us to have maybe a roundtable or a virtual work program or a webinar, then there will be learnings and discussions and contributions across the various countries that will bring more enriched information and build more skills for our professionals. And it is important that the whole process should not be done by one country or by just one individual progressing. And so what we intend to do is that within the West African sub-region, we intend to play very key roles. We have already got discussions with Liberia to support them to build capacity, and we ourselves need capacity, but the little we have, we are ready to share. And some of the West African countries are already our mentees. So it's important we don't grow faster and then now still hold them. We want them to come up with us. And that is where we need very interested collaborators to be associated with this good work, because all these ones, we do it voluntarily, and we make some investment, but our limitations are also making it impossible for us to outreach the way we want to. And thank you very much for this question so far.
All right. Thank you very much, Sina. I hope that